Welcome back. In a bid to prepare for mass re-employment following the regression of the economy from the COVID-19 pandemic, the Labour Department is currently heightening its capacity to identify and engage unemployed people based on their experience and skill set. Labour Minister Stephenson King says during the re-employment process, special attention will be given to people who lost their jobs directly as a result of COVID-19. Jacques Wooding reports.
As hotels and businesses on island continue to close their doors, an increasing number of persons are suddenly without paychecks. In the short term, government will provide assistance to these people through a stabilization program facilitated by the National Insurance Corporation. Meanwhile, the Labour Department has been tasked to look beyond the crisis and begin the establishment of necessary tools required to facilitate mass re-employment. Labour Minister Stephenson King says the development of a database which will group persons based on their previous experience and their current skills is underway.
Within the Labour Department, we know the NIC is doing one thing, but within the Labour Department, we are now looking to develop that register to strengthen the data that we have, the information that we have on persons who are not just unemployed, but persons who are unemployed with skills. What skills do they have? So as to take up the mantle of being the main employment agency in St. Lucia. That is, to be able to say to the nation what is available and who are the people out there looking for a job.
In order to provide special assistance to persons who have been unemployed due to the economic situation caused by COVID-19, a special shortlist will be created within the database to see these persons reintegrated to their previous form of employment or one requiring a similar skill set.
Sending people home and re-engaging anybody else is not an easy task. Those persons are trained. And therefore, you've got 12 weeks to be on layoff, even if they are not getting paid by the employer. The NIC has put in place the arrangements under the stabilization program to take care of those individuals. Based on what we are doing in terms of data collection, we will be able to capture them. The NIC also, through a grant from the government, will be looking at those individuals. And once they can be validated as having lost the jobs within the sector, then the NIC will attempt to handle their situation.
King says it is integral that such framework is put in place beforehand so that relevant agencies are not left scrambling when re-employment services become necessary. For 7 News, I am Jacques Wooding.
An extension to the state of emergency was the subject up for debate inside the House of Assembly, and while it was an issue of concern for members of the public, many said there are other issues weighing heavily on their minds. Let's join Genevieve Gonzague.
Public service workers are on edge about the much talked about proposed pay cuts. The CSA has indicated to its members that it received proposals on April 19, 2020 at 10:30 p.m. The proposals are as follows. 1. Grades 1 to 6 gets their full salary. 2. Grades 7 to 18 gets 50% of their salary and the remaining 50% in bonds. 3. Grades 19 and above gets 25% of their salary and 75% in bonds. The executive met on April 20, 2020 to discuss the matter, noting that the proposals need to be taken to the membership. Prime Minister Alan Chastanet on Tuesday insisted that there will be no salary cut. However, he explained that negotiations are ongoing with unions to arrive at common ground.
First of all, the government is not proposing any form of pay cuts. The government is honoring its collective agreement. This is why we've met with the unions to indicate to them that we do not want to renegotiate our collective agreement. But what we're recommending is that government find a way to convert some of the cash payments into bonds, and we're open to any ideas that they have as to how to do that. We are paying the civil servants their salaries. We are paying the civil servants part in cash and part in a bond.
The PM noted that because of the ongoing negotiations with the unions on the new methods of pay, April salaries will be delayed by 1 week from the 23rd to the 30th in order to complete and seal the decision, as the government does not want any proposal to come off as forced. The Prime Minister indicated that one serious challenge facing the economy right now is cash flow. As such, the government needs to be very careful with how it allocates its cash, since it has no indication of when the crisis at hand will be over.
The first presentation was taking into consideration that the IMF, the World Bank, the ECCB, and our economic staff here had a preliminary prognosis that the economy was going to contract for 2021 by 10%. We had anticipated or expected that in late March, early February, April, that our cash flow would have been reduced to about $33 million.
Prime Minister Chasney says that given the partial closure of the economy and the lack of revenue coming into the country, additional monies will have to be sourced from the regional commercial banks in order to sustain and continue the basic operations of the country.
We have negotiated with the commercial banks to get an increase our overdraft facility to $110 million. We are going to the board of the IMF on the 27th of this month for a loan of $30 million US. We've put in an application with CDB for a policy-based loan of $35 million US, and we're also getting final approvals from the ECCB to get a loan of approximately 80 million EC. Altogether, we're talking about $240 million that we've been able to negotiate between now and next month. But I want everyone to understand that those are one-time injections.
The Prime Minister asserted that every government department is deserving and has been working tirelessly during such unprecedented times. However, he asserts that everyone should realize that we are all in this together. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Genevieve Gonzalez.
It was a challenge that schools were told to brace for. Some were better able to take on that challenge of virtual learning. The St. Mary's College is one of the schools that has come in for high praise with its virtual assembly marking the commencement of the third term.
The St. Mary's College made a commendable effort to establish a sense of normalcy for students as they began the virtual third term of school. It is often said that adversity is the mother of invention, and so SMC took to the web with prayers, a principal's address, and even performances by students. The school's choir performed an inspirational rendition. Principal Don Howell explained that the college would continue to follow the instructions set out by the Ministry of Education and urged students to participate in all classes in the e-learning portal.
The Ministry of Education has mandated that the third term of this academic year be administered online. And it begins today, Monday, 20th April, 2020. Gentlemen, I know that you would have loved to be back in your most favorite physical space at St. Mary's College to continue with your education and to interact with your classmates, building the traditional camaraderie that has become a lifelong tradition at St. Mary's College. Nonetheless, gentlemen, we will continue the engagement online through the online mediums that your teachers have created for you.
The administration of the St. Mary's College has ensured that all measures have been put in place for students to access content in Google Classrooms as well as interact with teachers. The mental and emotional needs of students have been taken into consideration as students will be receiving guidance counseling.
Every teacher will have their Google Classroom that every student in their class will be invited to join. The invitation will be sent via students' smc.edu.lc email addresses. Now you may be wondering about the access to those email addresses. By April 24th, 2020, all students will receive an activation notice from Google Suites via the email addresses that we currently have on file in our system. This notice will allow the activation of an official @smc.edu.lc Google account for your son or ward, which he will use to access content and interact with his teachers via Google Classroom. For this week, students and parents will be invited to join our SMC admin classroom. This classroom will provide tutorials for students to help them navigate through the Google Classroom platform. Throughout the week of April 20th to 24th, students will also receive guidance counseling that will support them as they transition to online learning.
The school has also put measures in place for the less fortunate students in an effort to ensure no child is left behind. The school has also put measures in place for the less fortunate students in an effort to ensure no child is left behind. Students with no internet access will be identified and reached out to, and food packages will be given out to students in the feeding program. The St. Mary's College celebrated its 130th year in existence in March, and while the activities to commemorate this milestone are on pause, the principal says celebratory messages could be left on the school's page. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Genevieve Gonzague.
U.S. President Donald Trump has said he will sign an executive order to temporarily suspend all immigration to the U.S. because of COVID-19. On Twitter, he cited the attack from the invisible enemy, as he calls the virus, and the need to protect the jobs of Americans, but he did not give details. It was not clear what programs might be affected and whether the president would be able to carry out the order. Critics say the government is using the pandemic to crack down on immigration. Immigration has traditionally been a strong campaigning theme for Donald Trump, but has taken a back seat during the pandemic and in the lead-up to the November election. This is the Hot 7 TV Nightly News. Sports and weather are coming up after the break.